Hey, Magic fans, welcome back. This is your captain speaking here on Captain Clyde's MTG. And today, we might as well talk about it. Banned and restricted announcements. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. Don't forget, comment, like, subscribe. It helps keep the channel sponsor free. So stay tuned at the end of the video for some more shenanigans and free shilling on myself. But let's talk about what's actually on everybody's minds right now. What was banned and restricted or not in the Magic world. So as we look at the announcements here, Standard has no changes because we know how well that's going. Clearly, no need for changes. Clearly. Meanwhile, the dumpster behind me is on fire. Pioneer, also no changes. I don't think the dumpster's on fire, but it is definitely smoldering. But hey, I mean, it's not on fire yet, right? So in Modern, Violent Outburst has been banned because, a green, red, and 1 instant with Cascade that gives all your creatures +1/+0 is too powerful for a format where 2 mana is almost too much. But we'll get into that later about why it really is. Legacy has no changes because shit's off the rails. And Vintage Ponder is now unrestricted because can it get any worse? For the love of God, this format. So, Explorer has no changes. Pauper has no changes. Explorer, I don't think anybody even plays. Pauper is vintage. I would say vintage light, but it's more like vintage cheap. And if you're banning something in Pauper, God, it's got to be egregious, especially being in a common. Anyway, moving on. So effective March 11th, today, for tabletop and online, these bans go into effect. The next ban is going to be May 13th, which if I look at my calendar here, March, April, May, wow, 3 more months on a Monday. So basically 1 month. 2 months. Basically 2 months from now, we'll get another ban restricted announcement, which will probably fix everything. Said no Magic player ever. So let's talk about what's going on. So they said here, a most recent ban restricted announcement on December 4th at the end of last year, we planned today's announcement such that we could observe and gather data, as they always say, after the release of Murders at Karloff Manor from the Pro Tour, and other things. So in Standard, a little more than 10 months ago, we set out to revitalize Standard. How's that going? We updated the rotation, tweaked our banning philosophy, added more events and opportunities to play, and released several new sets. All good ideas except for how you release the cards and how powerful they are. But anyway, we're thrilled to say that Standard is incredibly healthy right now, both in terms of play environment and the interest in playing the format. You mean the play environment is fun because nobody's complaining, or because the interest in the format is almost zero, so there's nobody to bitch about it. But anyway, moving on. Over the past year, the number of players participating in Tabletop Standard has trended upwards. I mean, go from 20 players to 22. That's technically up. Accumulating this past week, the numbers were higher than ever after the pandemic. Yeah. More than triple the number of tickets, entries. This is based off of year-end comparisons and at the formats where they're having their Magic Cons, I would assume. Because I'm pretty sure my local LGS does not sell me a ticket to play. With that said, yes, at the Magic Con, sales could be up because people want to play Magic. But also, to be fair, they can't play every format they want at the Magic Con because there are limits and too many people. But maybe some people do play Standard, and we won't throw shade at those guys because they're brave souls, and I salute them. Anyway, so as it looks like Standard's healthy, blah, 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 cards like Novice Inspector, this little fella, and Case of the Gateway Express have powered up Boros Convoke. Boy, has it. If you guys didn't watch my video from this weekend, check that crap out. No More Lies, elevated Azorius Control. Trusty Domain, Esper mid-range decks remain strong. We have seen some exciting new combo decks like Stormcore Scholar, Reenact the Crime, and Council Unraveler. Perhaps one of the most interesting developments in Standard comes from the winner of the 75K Open whose deck featured Aftermath Analysis, Nissa Resurgent, and Olgirth. I'm going to have to look that up. Put in the comment section, you know what they're talking about. That sounds like a giant shit show, but also sounds like tons of fun. Because no great story ever started with, I played a goblin guy. So, Pioneer, again, kind of the same things. No more lies to do. Better lands to put in Pioneer. Vin Ripper. Well, it's Pioneer. If you watched the Pro Tour, you know that vampires are running amok right now. I'm pretty sure that Sorin will probably get banned at some point. But if not, more power to him. I mean, whatever. Don't really care. Explorer. Each card banned in Pioneer is available in Arena is also banned in Explorer. Durr. All right, Modern. Here we go. Violent Outburst banning. So in our previous Modern update, we removed Fury and Up the Beanstalk from the environment. Doing so has returned Rakdos mid-range to an acceptable level without deleting it from the metagame entirely. Since then, we've seen Temur Rhinos living in Golgari, Yawgmoth, Amulet Titan, and Izzet Murktide rise in the metagame. More recently, players have had success with Leyline of the Guild Pack from Murders in Domain Zoo with Rhino variants featuring Lion of Draco and Leyline Binding. I.e., you play this on turn 1, and this automatically costs 1 white, and this automatically costs nothing. 2 mana for a 4/4 flyer. Which then has Vigilance, Hexproof, Lifelink, First Strike, Trample, all the good stuff. So, I will admit, this little thing here, bit obscene. Anyway, moving on. Casting Violent Outburst during opponent's turns reduces a lot of risk inherency in such a strategy. It allows Cascade players to untap with their mana open and Rhino tokens, or cycling creatures ready to attack, so forth and so on, giving them Force of Negation as backup because it's cast not on your turn, making it basically a Force of Will for your Violent Outburst. So, to be honest, all jokes aside, Violent Outburst probably did need to be banned. This deck is powerful, even without it. But with it, it was insanely good. Not going to lie. So by removing the Outburst, they're going to force players to play things like Ardent Plea, which is an enchantment and a sorcery. Demonic Dread, which again is a sorcery. And many of that is to... Really, what they're trying to do is to stop everything and the combo being instant speed, meaning that you can never tap out and your opponent doesn't have to either because they can do everything on your turn and then do it again on their turn. So I get it. All jokes aside, this was probably very necessary. It is funny that they allowed this to happen, but that's what some of the fun stuff really is when we get to see these kind of, in my opinion, degenerate decks come out and then dealing with it. Because like this monstrosity here, Leyline, Scion, all this hot garbage, I think it's pretty funny, even when it's whooping my ass. However, the Violent Outburst Rhino thing just makes me angry. Just gonna put that right out there. So next year we have Legacy. Nothing was changed. Decks have changed a little bit with Bowmasters, Delvers, so forth and so on, but nothing all that bad. Ponder gets unbanned or I'm not unbanned. I'm sorry, unrestricted. So now instead of playing 1, you can play 4. It's been restricted since 2008. It's not necessarily true that we want to reinduce every card that has been restricted for over a decade, but evidence suggests Ponder is ready for a comeback into the 4 of club. It is one of the best cards that there is. While not much has changed in Vintage since our last announcement, we believe that spell-based combo decks in Vintage could use a little boost. Top of the metagame features decks like Lurrus Saga, Initiative, and Mishra Workshop Shells. Is a very, very cool. Anyway, even if many of the Lurrus decks contain blue, they generally feature 0 copies of Ponder. This is true because you can't play Ponder out of the graveyard with Lurrus. That's just how that works. Could you play it? Yes. What's it do in your graveyard? Not a damn thing. So, I don't think this will change a whole lot of things either, other than do make some of the combo decks a little better. All in all, I think this is I don't want to say it's a good ban restricted announcement, but what they banned and unrestricted for Vintage seems cool. It's going to be a fun shakeup, and it's going to have some play to make the formats better. However, unless Modern is coming up as one of the next big things for a Pro Tour, which it probably is, there's really no reason to ban Violent Outburst. But I think since we just had Pioneer, Standard or Modern is probably one of the two that's going to sneak back into the next Pro Tour. I'm going to guess it's Modern. And I think after that, we might see a Standard Pro Tour. I mean, we're always going to have the limited part of it. So, all in all, I think it's pretty good. You guys tell me what you think down below. Crack some jokes. Have a good time. But let's keep it peaceful. It gets ugly down there sometimes. Until next time, be kind. And as always, hope to see you crossing the game table. Later, players. I know that's